What was the high point of the season?
Oh, I would say perhaps it was just the development of some of the younger guys. You know, we thought Monteleone and Musselman would, you know, before we lost Jimmy O'Rourke, that they were going to be backup kind of guys. They got a lot of work. I think the attitude of guys like Joe Tonga, you know, Joe came here with high aspirations, and yet he was limited through almost the entire season, and yet he was, you know, he was really positive. Tobias Robinson, who you would think would have been an odds-on 1,000-yard rusher, and yet he continued to, you know, even the last game he continued that last drive. I mean, he battled for 3-yard runs. You know, so there were, as always, there were positive things, but it was just a tough year to go through.
You've told me before that you don't, it's not that you don't care what people think, but you don't allow yourself to feel certain kinds of pressures and stuff. But, you know, years from now, people are could say, first losing season in 27 years, and Luke Tepper was the head coach. I mean, this is not something you want attached to your name. I mean,
yeah, I don't know that kind of thing. I mean, it's more for the team and for our program than for me. This isn't about Luke Tepper. It's about IUP and doing the best we can. And so, you know, that thing doesn't bother me in that way. It's more, we got to get this thing back and get it righted.
is there a way it does bother you?
What's that?
Is there a way that it does bother you?
Well, I think I mean, anytime you lose, it bothers you. I mean, had we been 6-5, I don't know that it would have bothered me any differently, because of our, you know, our thoughts beforehand. You know, had we been 7-4, I don't know that I would have been happy with things the way we came in. So, you know, we just got to forge ahead with what we have, and you know, these seniors, you know, the seniors won a lot of games around here, you know, and you know, this year, ironically, this year there are 3 8-3 teams from our league that made it. You know, we've had 2 8-2 teams and a 9-3 team. You know, we've gone once, and so it was one of those years that, you know.
You ever think about, has that ever changing your approach to coaching a little bit cross your mind at all, or is
In what ways?
in any way?
I think you stay with what you do and what you know. I mean, there were changes this year. I mean, we changed practice considerably, not even close to the way we've practiced before. I mean, we had some practices where we were in shorts. We didn't even go out. One Thursday we went out in shorts and t-shirts. You know, if you would have told me when the season began we would be in the iBone on Wednesday before a game starts, I would have said you're crazy. You know, I'm not a guy who normally will change something on a Wednesday, and but you know, you're put in some situations where you've got to do some other things. I think this season was really atypical of the way in which we would normally practice our team, and it was uncomfortable for everybody. Our players know it too. I mean, our players were aware. We every Thursday we usually do a very high tempo 2-minute drill. I don't know that happened twice in the course of this year. We walked through the last 2 or 3 weeks. That's not conducive to getting better. We normally would have a 9-on-7 in a team period against each other. I don't know that, we had a couple 7-on-7s, but we rarely did 9-on-7s against each other or team periods against each other. So there were a lot of adjustments because of our circumstances, but they certainly weren't things we wanted to do. We just felt there were things we had to do.
Do you have a fear of losing any more players to injury in practice?
Yes, or we didn't have 5 offensive linemen.
Yeah.
There were several times where we had 3 offensive linemen, and so yeah, it was hopefully an unusual injury situation for us.
Well, I'm going to be skeptical, but how if
Sure.
you've got 75, 80, 85 players, why when it gets down to the end of the season you've only got 5 or 6 linemen? Are there ones that
Part
just
of
weren't
it, part of it is injuries, but part of it also is recruiting. We lost some kids. Losing Jimmy O'Rourke was a loss that caused some other things to happen. Not, when you bring in a Joe Tonga and a Nate Tucker, you really feel like you have 2 pretty athletic linemen, and yet, I don't know that either one of them was healthy for 4 weeks during the season. Now, when you start to go to other guys, I mean, you look at the past 2 years when we scored 38 points a game. My guess is you can go through the starting 5 offensive linemen, and they were pretty much the same for 2 years. And we just didn't have that fortune this year.
Was there just not?
Didn't happen.
None of the younger kids were ready to play? Because, you have more than 6 linemen, but there were.
But we don't have enough. I mean, our goal is still to get to 15, and we don't have that yet. We had Nick Carnicella, who we did not want to play. We have Byron Dovals, who I think is going to be a wonderful young player that we just don't want to play yet. We have Jared Good, the 3 freshmen, who we didn't feel was ready yet to play. So we didn't want to put those guys in over their heads and use a year. So that was kind of the bind we were in. We had younger guys who either weren't ready. Now, Nick Carnicella, my guess is, had we played him early, he would have played late. Once we got to a certain point in the season, we just didn't want to give up his year to play him. But if we had had another injury at Kutztown, he knew he had to go in. So I mean, I think it's a combination not only of the injuries, but we've been dangerously low with offensive linemen. They're hard to find. There just aren't. I keep saying one of my first questions when I go to heaven is, why didn't you make more big guys? And unfortunately, he made a bunch of skinny little guys like me. But we're going to continue to try and find more big guys.
Is that the list your?
It's the top priority probably, and the second would be wide receiver.